Okay, we are getting into the final quarterfinal match between 8-Rack and Mono White Death and Taxes, and we are here with the same fine fellow who co-hosted the kind of pregame show with me, Mr. Steven Mirabito, and we didn't really know what to say about this matchup with Surety at the time we kind of covered it then. I don't think much has changed.
No, certainly not. I'm super excited to see how this goes down. I don't know what to expect. I'm probably, as a commentator, going to get a lot of things wrong here. So we're going to see how this goes. I'm really excited. So John decides to ship his first hand. His first hand, I believe, had 2 Shrieking Afflictions, a Rack, and just the only discard effect, a Wrench Mine.
Too many payoffs.
Right.
Not enough action.
Exactly. So we're just going to keep this Inquisition and Wrench Mine hand, and we see a pretty loaded up hand. What do you think you would take here, Grim?
Stoneforge Mystic.
Yep.
Pretty easy SFM. Definitely not Path. And then if you look at the other two, it's like, okay, they get a little value, whatever. Got to take SFM there.
Makes sense.
Tricking the Giver of Runes, though. That's good for him.
Pretty good draw if this ever comes down to removal spells mattering here. Also, something funny to think about with the Wrench Mine, there was even a chance that if the Stoneforge Mystic resolved before the Wrench Mine, the Wrench Mine could have just discarded the artifact that the Stoneforge Mystic got. Now it's just a very clean 2-for-1, so let's see what the Dogfish pitches here.
I also like John fetching there because Leonin Arbiter is in the deck, and we need to fetch early and often when available. So
fetch early and often, indeed. Fetch early and often against the tax, man.
Yes, that's right. Could somebody who's listening please message John to have him play with the hand revealed, and also maybe pop the graveyards out, but especially I think we need to see the hand when we're on 8. To the extent that we know it.
Definitely important. So,
but Dogfish pitches Path, which is no surprise, and Flicker Wisp as well.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Right, I think he wanted just to keep that turn 2 play of the Charming Prince there, trying to scry his way into some more action, maybe scry his way into putting some more threats on the board here. And he goes and he puts top bottom with his Charming Prince.
Yep. I actually wonder if Dogfish was supposed to attack there with the Giver. I think this is just a racing situation. I understand that it's a very common play pattern to pass with Giver open to protect from removal.
Right.
But I wonder about that.
Yeah, I'm not so sure either. There's definitely a trade-off there with the Giver, because then you can't protect your 2/2 Charming Prince. But maybe that was fine. Maybe we're fine with just losing that one. We can save Giver to protect something else. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's a real tough call.
It is a tough call. It's hard to know exactly how to navigate this, but we draw a very good one, especially because Dogfish missed a land drop here, and now the Smallpox is going to do some serious work here.
Classic 8-Rack.
Classic.
In action. Right. Wow. Jeez.
Things are starting to come together here, because we're even losing this card in hand. Now the Rack can deal a point of damage here after we discard.
Yep. John begs me in chat not to make fun of his lands. I don't know, man. Now that you've drawn my attention to them, I have to. No, those are great lands. Those are fine. People know I have an affinity for older bordered ones, but hey, as long as you love them, it's cool.
Is exactly right. That's all that matters.
Yep. Okay, Dogfish finding a land, which seems, I would say, necessary, but maybe not sufficient for him to back into it. But that seems good.
Wow, great draw of the Stoneforge Mystic here.
Indeed, that's scary.
And that really puts the ball in John's court here. If he doesn't find something to answer the Stoneforge Mystic very quickly, I think this is going to get out of hand.
Yep. Or, he's got a lot of outs, another Smallpox, another Wrench Mine, but would be very good.
Absolutely.
Even just a regular discard spell we'd take all day. So, gotta find something like that, though. There's no doubt.
Absolutely true.
Cool. Thank you, John. There's the... Okay, batter. Oh, he closes it again. That's fine.
He wanted to give you the tease there.
Exactly. Okay, it's not an answer. It's not an out. It's a Mutavault,
Right.
which does some things, but yeah. I don't think John has outs to a resolved artifact, like pure, in a pure sense, post
Right.
like Fatal Push. Is that in the main? I need to look at the list actually.
Yeah, let's go ahead and pull up the list for John here. So let's take a look. We've got if we find a way to isolate one single creature on the board, a Liliana the Veil could possibly downtick to sacrifice just the Germ token. Of course, it wouldn't get rid of the artifact.
Yes.
We also have a Dismember. We have Fatal Pushes. And
3 Fatal Push, yeah.
3 Fatal Push, right. And I think that's about it, actually.
Yep.
Yeah,
I think so. So, big problem, of course, is the life gain from Batterskull is going to put Dogfish way out of the reach of this single rack effect.
Absolutely, absolutely. Especially when the 8-rack deck is actually just at the end of the day just dealing straight damage to be able to do that.
Yep.
We see the Thoughtseize, but unfortunately it's one turn too late. If John goes to Thoughtseize, the Dogfish, in response, Dogfish can just go ahead and put in that Batterskull.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So 2 discard effects, gonna get them empty-handed, but
right.
Classic 8-rack problem. I said classic 8-rack progression at the beginning. This is the problem. Your answers are a little limited in scope. They're also a little limited in density. And then you can also have the classic mid-rangey problem of drawing discard spells when you need answers or a board presence or anything else, really. Right. So,
actually, really heads up play here by John. I really like this. Even though I don't think it's ultimately going to matter, but he decides to, instead of thought seizing and losing the life, he's going to Raven's Crime because it does the same exact thing. He knows he's getting the same card out of hand. Also playing around possibly another land. Don't think there's another land in Dogfish's hand, but there could have been, and if he thought seized, then that would have just been losing 2 life for no reason at all.
I agree completely.
Yep. And Dogfish making good use here of his Ghost Quarters, being able to take out both utility lands and Castle Lochthwain and the Mutavault. And that looks like it's probably all but going to wrap this up here. What we're looking for is a way to answer, frankly, both the Mystic and the Batterskull, because if we get the token, then all that Dogfish needs is a land to bounce it back to hand, and then Stoneforge Mystic can put it right back into play. So maybe we can see some running removal spells here. Another Mutavault there is probably just going to do it, and I think John agrees here's who's going to concede.
Yeah, I mean, that just turned a 180-degree arc like that, exactly. Overnight, if you will. Right. Like I had John as like a 75-25 favorite from position in the game, and then boom.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Stoneforge Mystic, the second land to facilitate it after the smallpox, and John missing his outs, and that was that. So
that was that indeed. It seems to me that for the 8-rack player to really keep up, they need to draw a pretty steady stream of removal spells, which is going to be helped out a lot here in the sideboard. Let's see how much John wants to bring in here.
I think he's got a ton of options. I think Vengeance is pretty good. I like the Brutalities a lot. Yes. How deep into the weeds would you get with Ratchet Bomb and Pithing Needle? They both have a lot of appeal, honestly.
I think it's going to come down to a lot of what John thinks he needs to take out here. And if he does have some cards he wants to bring out, I personally would really be looking at those Ratchet Bombs and those Pithing Needles. I think artifacts on the Dogfish's side is probably one of the ways that you really lose this game.
Yeah, I agree. Is it ever correct for an 8-rack player to side out rack effects?
That's a great question. And because the rack effects there really did not look good, did they?
No, not at all. I think if you can disrupt the Dogfish heavily enough. I think maybe cutting a rack effect or two is probably fine, but I have no idea. Maybe the deck doesn't almost ever do that. But right now, he doesn't have the bombs in. He doesn't have the Witch's Vengeance in, which I think is good. And he's still got to make a cut. So definitely a bit of a tough spot.
Yeah. I think
an
maybe
argument a Ravens crime here, maybe
that might be, yeah. Maybe we're looking at the Ravens crimes there. That's maybe where I would go too. I think one thing that's on John's mind here is I think he doesn't want to dilute his deck's main game plan. I think there maybe is a critical mass of discard you need to really even make your deck function. And so maybe he's really worried about, if I sideboard into a bad mono black control deck, there's just really no chance that I have here. So I've got to stick with my guns, stick with my main game plan.
I think there's a lot of truth to that.
Did we take a look at the Dogfish's deck list? Maybe we can look at maybe what he has to bring in.
Yeah, let's pull that up here. I know from memory he's got Leonin Relic Warder, which is a card that you never see outside of D&T. Cool. So I expect him to attack the rack effects. And Mirren Crusader Auric Champion. Right. We have Crusader main deck. The second one's in the side. The champions both are in the side. As we talked about in our pregame, they might not be as good as some people assume, but I could still certainly see them coming in, especially the Crusader.
Oh, absolutely.
And then what else? Gideon, if the Dogfish thinks he can ever have 4 lands on the field, would be a really good grindy card, but that's a big if.
True. True.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm seeing.
I really appreciate John here in chat taunting his opponent to mulligan. I think intimidation and scare factor is probably one of the main reasons why you play 8-rack, in my opinion.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So do we just get an Affliction down and then hold up Funeral Charm? I think that's what I would do. I think I would also play the fetch land for the same reasons we mentioned in round 1, but he doesn't do that.
Maybe he is not too worried with the Collective Brutality in hand here. He knows that if he if they tap out for the excuse me, I'm trying to remember the name of the card. Cat Jesus is that all that I know him by.
Yes. Leon and Arbiter. Yep.
Leon and Arbiter. If he taps out for the Leon Arbiter, he does have the answer there in hand. So very unfortunate here that there's the Thalia. He can't double spell here through the whole turn cycle. Funeral Charm, of course, now costing 2 whole mana instead of 1. A much more difficult deal here.
Yes, but at least it is a tempo even trade because it's a removal spell for her if he wants it to be.
Yes.
So there is that, but the draw of Wrenchmind, definitely Thalia doing her job as far as tempo.
Yeah, think about if it was any other X1 creature here. We could have end-step Funeral Charm untapped and Liliana, Wrenchmind, Collective Brutality. I think the Thalia there is probably doing more than the Dogfish ever even realizes because he doesn't see what's in John's hand here.
Absolutely agreed. All right, so post-side, Dogfish should be more wary for removal. He still does get Batterskull. I think it was less of a slam dunk to get it, but you still understand getting it. I don't know if I have a strong opinion on what the best equipment to get there is, but surely John just has to remove SFM now.
Absolutely. John, again, getting inside the mind of the Dogfish here, bluffing the Fatal Push, trying to keep the Dogfish on his toes, keep him scared. Like I said, I think it's such an important part of this deck is really the psychological warfare that you put your opponent underneath when you are casting Shrieking Afflictions and rack effects.
There's no question about that. So true. So John with a very powerful draw of Smallpox, but I think making the play of Lily tick down there.
Yep.
Smallpox is not very free for him right now. Dogfish does have 4 lands. If we see Gideon here, I'm about to lose my mind, but it's another Thalia.
Another Thalia. Let's see what we have here. And a Charming Prince. Really strong turn here. Again, this Thalia just absolutely doing overtime here. Even if John draws the land, he can't double spell. He can't Collective Brutality into Smallpox. So we're going to see John have to make a difficult decision of which creature to kill. And then that creature that lives is going to kill the Liliana most likely on the crackback here.
Yes.
I literally liked John's play of Liliana there last turn because it's his best way to get of a reliable source of discard to get the Dogfish's hand empty here, but unfortunately really punished by hitting the Dogfish hitting the land and playing double creature here.
Yeah, agreed with everything you just said. That said, he's still got a handful of really good action.
Absolutely.
So I think one interesting play is he can get Dogfish totally hellbent by taking up and playing a Wrenchmind. I don't know that that's correct, especially with a silent clearing over there, but it's kind of a non-obvious option. I think the more obvious option would be tick up with Lily, maybe pitching Smallpox at this stage, or possibly Wrenchmind if you think he can dump his hand out next turn, and then Brutality to kill Thalia.
Yeah.
But Dogfish doing the types of things he needs to do to stay in the game.
Most certainly. And in a really cruel twist of fate here, Smallpox actually looking pretty bad for John here. If he were to cast it, Dogfish keeps the Thalia, and now he only has 2 lands, and he's actually locked out of a number of spells he could top deck.
Yeah, I think Smallpox has to be the pick here. Again, unless you're playing for the real long game, just saying, okay, they're going to dump their hand out. It's either Smallpox or Wrenchmind.
Agreed. Also really important to know here that the slight difference here in Shrieking Affliction versus the Rack, which I think is easy to confuse and mix up at times, but Shrieking Affliction triggers 3 life no matter what, but the opponent has to have 1 or fewer cards. Whereas the Rack, it's 1 life basically lost for every card less than 3. So actually really looking very relevant here for the Dogfish, who may actually be able to keep 2 cards in hand depending on how John sequences here.
Yes, agreed. Sword of Fire and Ice goes down. And making the right call there, hitting Thalia for sure. Nightmares of Dogfish has a 3rd one, but he can't really play for that.
Yeah, not much you can do about that. And we're going to see that Batter Skull come down, which might be able to do a lot of work here.
The 5th land. All right, dang. Yeah, I tend to think that a resolved Batter Skull is usually just about game over.
Yeah, it might be. What do you think John's best play is here, Grim?
I think what he's doing is correct. I think he's supposed to use Murderous Rider here, use Swift End rather, and that is indeed what he's doing. It all feels a little futile.
Right.
Batter, like 8-Rack just can't beat a resolved Batter Skull almost ever, as far as I can tell. That's just my outsider's instinct.
Yeah, I wasn't, when we were doing our deck and match analysis here, the card Batter Skull was just not on my mind at all. And
yeah, you would never expect Dogfish to have 5 lands on curve, and also the Batter Skull not get discarded out. It's really unusual, but I guess the pressure exerted on the board and on the tempo by Thalia is really what enabled all this.
Exactly. Oh, Ariak Champion.
Yeah.
That's going to be a fantastic target to equip with our Batter Skull next turn. We know pretty much that there's just no instant speed removal spells that could answer that equipment. Oh, we just have the double. Oh wow, this is just, all right. This is awful. I mean, John has a family. I don't know what the Dogfish is doing here. This is just absolutely savage.
We need Damnation.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Wow.
So
that's basically that. I mean, he's going to get another turn, but
it might be we're gonna fire up the Smallpox probably just to take him off the 5th land and pray that he can't ever pay the equip cost on Batter Skull here. But yeah, this is looking pretty grim, if I do say so myself.
Exactly. Smallpox at least is relatively effective here, just in a pure value sense, but we've kind of gone beyond that concern. It is the late game. The Dogfish has found like almost all of his hate cards.
Right.
And we're on the ropes here on the black side of the table.
Yep.
This was my nightmare all week, John.
just visions of a Mirren Crusader equipped with a batter skull beating you down is quite terrifying. That would be nightmare inducing for me as well.
Jeez, the top 14 cards, all of these cards have been concentrated.
They really have. They really have, and pretty impressive here. We're going to see how this plays out, but my feeling here is that Dogfish might pull out the 3 for 4 of our upsets here.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, there's the 5th Lance. Wow. They always have it. It's so brutal. They never not have it. It's just so brutal.
This is what it's like to play a black-based interactive deck. That's just
exactly. Wow, that is a lot of damage. That is a lot of life gain. In fact, that is just lethal. So
that is just impossible to imagine. Like, I am a little bit speechless right now. I'm not gonna lie. That was crazy.
That was absolutely crazy. I think both players played extremely well. But impressive performance by the Dogfish. Really showing off what his White Taxes deck can do.
Yeah, I agree completely. Yeah, I think if I were to revisit sideboarding, I would be interested in becoming a little bit more of what you, I think, rightly called the bad black control deck. Like, just seems if you can set up these windows where you can be killing things or having flexibility to kill things in the early game, you are less likely to find yourself in this situation. That said, I think you're absolutely right that you need a critical mass of both payoffs and of discard spells. And so there's no legislating for the hard cast batter skull backed up by the pro black stuff. After all,
it is just the worst combination for any black deck. It really is.
Oh, we're showing off Frogtown now. I love it. Love it.
Maybe feeling some remorse. He wish he had registered this deck instead.
Exactly. Wow. Well, any other thoughts, Steven? That was. No. I thought that would take longer, and
I agree.
We also thought 8-Rack would win. But...
I agree. I know all surprises. I don't have much to say. That was a treat to watch.
It was, yeah. Thanks for being here, man. And yeah, we'll move on next to the semi-finals. Very exciting.